Is Deathmaster Snikch, Death Incarnate, in Tides of Torment? Yeah, this is about the ninja-in-chief of the Rat Ninjas of Warhammer, because I come in having never mastered that playstyle and wanting to learn, particularly since that part of the map has gotten crowded and really competitive. So, how do we go about turning Snikch into a true master of death? Let's find out. Recruited as a 263 upkeep foot lord, no mounts ever, Snikch arrives with the relatively unimpressive 3,920 health. Snikch, on his unit card, begins with something called scaling damage. That means the less health an enemy has, the more damage that he will do in proportion. So, get stuff low HP and bring him in to be the closer. Armor is only 30, but ninja reflexes account for physical resistance 30%, which will be ignored wholly by magical attack. Leadership begins at 70, which for a dirty rat isn't bad. Speed 54 and charge speed 75 are high enough to go running with the ogre bulls. Melee attack begins at the very high figure of 70, and every blow applies Weeping Blade to halve the armor value of the target, minus 50%. Attack interval 3.8 seconds is a little better than usual, splash a good size medium means Jade Lancers on down, and maximum targets taking hit point damage caps out at 5. Melee defense 50 is less than the other figure, but is still pretty high overall. Weapon strength 460 is split base 160 and armor piercing 300, so like with other Weeping Blade units, Snikch derives limited benefit from his own contact effect, though it's still some. It's mostly a force multiplier for allies. Charge bonus is 60, quite high, and mass is 550, quite low. A siege attacker like other legendary lords, at least for now, he also has Vanguard deployment, Strider for 0 movement penalties, even up forested hills, and Stalk. He has Scurry Away for plus 10% speed if wavering or routing. As Chief Assassin of Clan Eshin, Snikch starts with access to Shadowy Dealings, his faction mechanic. That's in another video. He pays plus 200% recruitment cost on all non-Eshin units, which means the upfront, and the upfront cost only, making it distinct from the ball and chain Tahenwen gets early on, and Knight Runners and Gutter Runners have modifications to their projectiles to add armor piercing, or rather, flip their ratio so that base becomes armor piercing and armor piercing becomes base. Grand Night Lord's Agitator gives his army plus 25% ambush success chance, gives Snikch concealment bombs with their usual uses for granting stalk and unspottable for close-in work, and melee attack plus 8 for embedded heroes in his army specifically. That's a huge boost to them generally. Now, also, this doesn't apply to himself. His bonuses are his own, they do not come from this ability. Snikch gets the same blue and red lines as other Skaven lords, which includes Ancient Cunning for up to ambush success chance plus 30% in the section after Route Marcher. So the first section with options. Sooner or later you'll max this out because it helps defray the penalty from using Stalking Stance to try and trigger an offensive ambush. That penalty is minus 15% to your ambush success chance, by the way. At rank 6, Expert Thief for 1 pip turns him into Locke from Final Fantasy VI, giving you plus 25% chance of stealing a magic item after battle. Can't steal what isn't there, but it's better to have this skill than not. At rank 8, Rat Fu gives enemy heroes minus 15% action success chance and plus 15% chance of wounding them. I don't know if this comes up much for lords anymore, but it's still nice to have it. Sneaky and Tricksy are your usual rank 8 1-pip wonders for plus 10% missile or spell resistance. Requiring 1 pip and no rank requirement, Slippery offers the active ability of the same name, a bonus to speed, much like Foe Seeker, but instead of a fatigue reduction, it gives melee defense plus 24 for the duration. Good at key moments, and it's usually a midway pip or end capstone of a combat line, so you get it super early here. At rank 16, he can use From the Shadows, a bit like a 200 range, castable concealment bomb, 35 meter radius. However, on top of Stalk and Unspottable, it also provides Snipe. Stealth isn't broken by firing missiles. That's a huge advantage if you're in a situation where you can take advantage. For his main combat line, since this is still a melee combat lore personally, he does not fire throwing stars. Our good friend Tail Weapon gives melee attack plus 3 and weapon strength plus 4% for 1 pip. Ruin and Decay at 2 pips gives weapon strength plus 5% generally, and plus 10% more against good races generally. Thick-Skinned is plus 15 armor at 2 pips, and he didn't start with a ton. Blade Master is plus 12 melee attack at 2. Indomitable is leadership plus 12 at 2, but you have to judge whether this is a buff or a better way to get your lord wounded. Verminous Valor is the usual midway pip, granting plus 25% speed, plus 8 leadership, and a low damage, high disruption explosion for getting out of dodge fast. And it's very effective at that. Woundmaker is our usual plus 20% weapon strength for glorious damage at 2 pips, Scarred Veteran plus 15% health at 2, Blade Shield plus 12 melee defense at 2, and that needs shoring up, Expeditious Endeavor for plus 15% at 2 for better ninja running. Deathmaster Sigil offers the namesake ability as the capstone, 90-second cooldown. This can be cast up to 100 meters away, and whatever struck, and it can only be a lord or hero target, is hit with cannot move for 7 seconds. 1 second is used for a vortex that's 15 meters in radius, inflicting 24 damage within that, of which 50% is armor piercing. It can be good for putting a key character in a bad position, and things can't brace and charge reflect if they're not facing you. So a lot of the pressure is going to fall on the personal line. Beginning at the shockingly early rank 8, we begin with Jump Scare. What horrors await? How about Ambush Success Chance plus 20%? That's horrible enough. Ambush Defense Chance plus 20%. Enemy Leadership minus 5 local region generally. His army's leadership plus 8 and melee attack plus 6 during ambushes. Preferably your ambushes, obviously. Scurry Fast Quick provides campaign movement range plus 5%, which is mild. Strider for the entire army, which is hopefully good for everybody, and certainly makes your monsters fight much harder in Forest. And Charge Bonus plus 8 flat, which should be a big help for everybody. Conceal Hide Them grants speed plus 10% to his entire army, and grants concealment bombs to Night Runners and Gutter Runners. Now, Gutter Runners get stalked normally. Night Runners certainly do not. Contract Loopholes gives upkeep minus 10% for Snikch's own army, and Lord and Hero recruit rank plus 3 faction-wide, thus Confederation safe. And over the course of a campaign, this is a huge benefit. Just Dodge It gives Snikch himself melee defense plus 5 and physical resistance plus 15% when he started with 30%. Well, magical attacks spoil this, but still, it's a lot. Sabotage and Unrest makes local region enemy armies suffer 15% extra attrition while under siege or encircled. It doesn't have to be by Snikch himself. Control minus 8 to enemy provinces, and minus 8 to enemy leadership if the enemy is laying siege, etc. to you. So we come to the legendary items. Whirl of Weeping Blades comes up as a quest at rank 3, and what you need to do is smack Grand Cathay factions, doesn't matter which, doesn't matter if it's an army or a garrison, 3 times. Holding the weapon gives weapon strength plus 5%, armor piercing damage plus 20 flat per blow, leadership plus 10 for Knight, Gutter, Death Runners, and Eshin Triads if they are rank 7 or above, it's still a big boost, and the namesake ability, 120-second cooldown, no use limit. This does 108 damage per second for 5 seconds in a 5-meter radius, which is very narrow, but this damage is 100% armor piercing. With the sole difference of 1 meter in radius, this is identical otherwise to Dakala's Whirlwind of Pleasure, and against a mass of elite infantry or even a cluster of monstrous infantry, it can be very, very strong. Time it well and snicker. The Cloak of Shadows quest opens at rank 7. Just wearing it gives enemy action success chance minus 10% for self-doubt and loathing, ambush success chance plus 20% more for Snikch's army, melee defense plus 10 for Snikch himself, and the namesake ability, a 35-meter hex, within which enemies are minus 4 leadership and minus 10 melee defense. That last part is bonkers, absolutely insane. As a constant buff, it is completely crazy in the best way. There is a set bonus, and Deathmaster's Toolkit provides control +1 for all provinces, ho-hum, and assassinate plus 15% chance for all characters. Well, I presume that is characters who assassinate rather than wound. Someone let me know if it affects wound, but I don't think so. So this is good once you've built up lots of dens and you have lots of assassins. So, how do we use Deathmaster Snikch? One thing before we continue. Since he starts with concealment bombs, every single available active skill, including his legendary weapon, makes for 7 active abilities, but all characters are limited to a max of 6 in battle. So if you went big on yellow and red line like I did in one campaign, in my case, stand or die got the short straw. So next time I'm in that situation, since I don't want to drop the weapon unless I have a really good alternative, I'll just not bother getting stand or die, since that's better used by warlords and stuff like that. Also, getting any item with any active ability makes the problem worse, so potions, etc. On the other hand, having 2 non-exclusive sources of plus 25% speed from skills alone is nice and doesn't stop you from slapping on a banner, and Verminous Valor is really convenient for an assassin who gets out of melee fast and reposition. More generally, it's almost funny how his direct combat value skyrockets with his legendary items, which still leaves a couple of other slots for nice and useful things. The rest is going to revolve around Eshin units, obviously, and surviving what you must for the non-Eshin ones to pad armies and so forth. So what is an Eshin unit? The tooltip explains it's all the runners, the triads, and also Skaven slaves are treated as part of Clan Eshin for this purpose. Well, I'd think of them as ubiquitous. They're just there. But sometimes cannon fodder is exactly what you need. In fact, if you weren't specifically in Cathay to start with, literally, you might find a lot more use for Skaven slave slingers. Utility just drops off a cliff when fighting Jade warriors of any stripe, compared to Knight Runners hitting above their weight. Now, with the clan contract system, which I go into detail in another video, you ultimately pick your poison, preferably not by angering Clan Pestilence. In my last, greatest test campaign in making the script, Clan Molder served as my relations piñata, but Pestilence loved me. I could recruit sub 600 gold Plague Monk Censer Bearers and sub 500 gold Plague Claw Catapults as a consequence when factoring in all the cost reductions in my starting province. And that's without the Lord being spec'd into that specifically. So now that we understand that in general, Snikch's personal line skills and so on are more impactful the less Eshin his personal army is. In a sense. Hero-heavy stacks come down to the strengths of the various heroes and how they interact with each other, plus the free 8 melee attack from Snikch's wise tutelage, or deadly incentives at least. I have tried doing it. I feel that with Skaven, a variety of heroes largely leads to an overcomplicated mess, and having enough assassins for an actual stack takes main campaign success and dominance, and if you're in that position, you don't really need a guide. It's fun to do this stuff, but too many chieftains and not enough braves results in insufficient protection for your backlines. Since this is not Scryer and you're not necessarily running all weapons teams, probably due to financial reasons, it's okay to defray the extra hero spam until later and bulk up with triads or other blocker units. Low recruitment cost means you can spam those units now. What you're paying over 10 turns doesn't matter if the army is crushed. And if you can't recruit an army at all because you're spending too much time recruiting it, then it doesn't matter. But anyway, if you're going to slap down from the shadows and have snipe, wouldn't you benefit even more if you did that on a bunch of Jezzails? Wouldn't Strider be more impactful on units that do not come with it, such as Rat Ogres for instance? To say nothing of the charge bonus +8. From the shadows can let Knight Runners snipe from 70 meters in theory, but in practice, something might react far sooner than you want it to. Point is, Snikch makes a lot of things work with a lot of clan offerings. It's not just the Clan Eshin stuff. And it's not like concealment bombs for Knight Runners is bad at all. It's just to say Snikch's boosts have more range than the typical Master Assassin, as in range in variety, and that's very good for you. The enemy not being able to directly target poisoned wind moors at long range, for a while at least, helps the damage get lopsided in your favor and so on. After trying it the other way a lot, I have to put my paw down and say, get a Warlock Engineer in Snikch's army no matter what else you do. Cathay alone is just too big to do without, and far-flung Undercity expansion takes serious money put away. Well, make plans to steal Skaven Blight from Inked Claw if you must, the special buildings do help. Ultimately, relentlessly leveling Snikch with shadowy dealings as well as battles brings a steady stream of regiments of renown into your hands, not just the Eshin ones, and they are regular recruitment cost, for better or worse, but it's usually for the better. When you're tired fighting fair, just get the Avalanche Mortars and pray to the Horned Rat that you get an Engineer's Knapsack item to drop. So you can do a lot. You just need to secure your rear as well as possible, partly through fortification, partly through selecting alliances with care, even if they're only short to medium term, and just work it out. But I want to give you room to fail, to try things which may not work, but which are fun. The revitalizing scheme can help you recover super fast once in a while, so keep that filed away. It's consolation for not having the very convenient scheme of doom and stuff, so make it count. Looping back to the beginning, Snikch never loses one of his most powerful features, scaling damage. This means the damage Snikch inflicts rises proportionately with the amount of hit points the target has lost relative to its maximum health. I have had him duel Satang the Watcher in melee and obliterate Satang. Satang is a decent melee combatant and has magical attack, so it's not an issue of Snikch being that tanky, though I think he had his Cloak of Shadows to help in that case. But when you have giant level health pools, 30% health still leaves a ton of health to gnaw through. Snikch makes that process go much smoother. Therefore, the more the hit points, the bigger a deal this scaling damage is. Sometimes the gang beating is the solution, sometimes Snikch himself will just pop off and do this kind of thing, and it's beautiful. Point being, the thornier and lower max HP the target, the tougher it is, but that's just how it goes. Starting where Snikch does is nice, but it's not enough. You need to build him up to extra high levels to consistently hit, even when fighting alone, and then you can feel a little bit safer about it. In spite of the redline skills being very useful for his side, Snikch was designed to crush things with his own blades. It's okay to see his personal line available very early as compensating for not splurging on redline skills, and to handle that later. That, and as I've said here and there, Verminous Valor is really nice for getting out of a mosh pit like a Fury out of the Chaos Realms, only to end up in someone else's back moments later. But in practice, Snikch needs distractions. He needs bait lures to set up his ambushes and to entice the AI out of position. He needs to set up situations where enemies move into bad spots. In battle, he needs something to not be in stealth to make the enemy go that way. In that sense, if everything is hidden, nothing is. So he needs decoys. Keep that in mind and he can pick his spots a lot more freely. And finally, despite Whirl of Weeping Blades being extremely helpful against monstrous infantry and clearing space, if there's some really good magical weapon out there for him, go ahead and swap. Taking the Wormslayer against Imrek is not a bad thing. It's just not a high-level legendary weapon. The armor is a lot more potent. But if you're using Wormslayer, an ability amazing at felling trolls will be redundant a lot of the time, won't it? There are other ways to build Snikch, I grant you, but with the personal line and the cloak, he doesn't really need Ancient Cunning as much as others do, and Master Assassins can't pull off the same level of craziness in melee. I hope this puts you in a better position to destroy your foes. You have a lot of them. Take care, and have fun making big constructs cry. A death cry.